So it's now been 100 days since getting my Quest 2. Actually, it's 101 days. 100 just sounds better on a YouTube title. I've used this thing extensively every single day since I got it 101 days ago. And by extensively, like I mean extensively and aggressively use this thing to the max every single day. From progressive degradation of tracking, dead pixels, scrapes, drops, eye strain issues, but still a whole lot of amazing VR gaming. Today's video, I'm going over everything that has happened to my Quest 2 in this time and how to prevent a lot of these, in some cases, pretty serious issues that I've begun to experience with this headset, and how this incredible headset will still stand the test of time, and why I still end up picking it up way more than my $1,000 Valve Index. Now, there's inevitably going to be some constructive criticism from me about this headset in this video, even as much as I love this thing. So if you can't handle a little bit of negativity about the headset and honesty from my part talking about this thing, just leave the video now. I'll be splitting this video up into 4 different categories: visual, audio, comfort, and hardware health. I'll be detailing how each have changed over the course of me owning the Quest 2, as well as giving each a rating out of 10 for how well they have held up. And in celebration of, this thing surviving 100 days in my possession, I'll be giving away a key to one of my favorite VR games of all time, Scent Riders. They've been kind enough to send me yet another key to give away to you guys. All you have to do to win is drop a comment down below on what happened to your Quest 2 within the first few months of owning it, as well as having, of course, liked and subscribed, as I'll be picking people from my subscribers list. And even if you don't win, you should really check out Scent Riders. It's easily one of the best games on the Quest 2 right now. Or just like the video because you actually like it, or don't. That's fine too. Okay, so I've been through a bunch of VR headsets, from the PSVR, the original Rift, the Rift S, the Valve Index, and of course, the Quest 2. And like I said in the intro, I constantly end up picking this thing up over my $1,000 Valve Index. So why? Well, I was pretty tired of how fragile the Valve Index was, after my first one had its right display burn up while on my face, as well as a whole host of controller drift issues experienced by the entire community, and one of the Index's biggest issues, exercising with it. The Index has this weak rubber seal around the lenses instead of a full seal that the Quest 2 does. So when you sweat a lot, you get something like what this poor Reddit user experienced, where the condensation had got into the display side of the lens and now have a permanent blur that won't shake even after letting it dry. I also had this same issue with my first Index headset back when I used to stream Beat Saber on my Twitch, twitch.tv/GetHip. Check it out. No one watches my streams. Maybe talk about VR stuff live with me, or don't. The Index, although having better adjustability than the Quest 2 initially, and feeling lighter due to its better weight distribution, is still pretty uncomfortable to exercise in games like Thrill of the Fight that have you jolt your neck around to avoid punches, because this thing is nearly 2 freaking pounds of weight. So I wanted a headset that wouldn't break, I could exercise in, and wasn't nearly 2 pounds of weight. So in comes the Oculus Quest 2. My Quest 2 arrived on the 25th of February 2021. After a few days of testing, I posted my initial thoughts and impressions for a series of videos. I was positive, like really positive. Completely wireless, all at a $299 price tag, is absolutely insane. We've come so far in just 5 years. However, still hesitant about the power that Facebook could have in 5 years' time once VR is more widely adopted, and that concern still hasn't changed. But some of my positivity around the hardware of the headset has dampened a little as cracks have begun to show. Literally, like there's actually a crack in my display right now that's actually really bad, and I probably should replace. We'll get to that in a second on how that happened. So what exactly has changed since my initial positivity surrounding the headset? Well, let's start with the visual. The Quest 2's visuals are still mostly crisper and clearer than my Valve Index, primarily due to the fantastic lenses used on the Quest. Oculus really nailed these. I wish Valve would follow suit instead of using the incredibly glare-inducing dual-element lens that are found on the Index. That said, the first serious issue I've begun to experience, and one of the issues in this video that I'm most concerned about, is with the Ipd adjustment. This is something that I and many other VR channels complain about, as having only 3 set modes for Ipd is actually insane. Though I didn't think that getting the perfect Ipd would be a huge deal with this headset, as many other people, and I'm sure many of you watching, probably didn't think either. I set the headset to the 3rd Ipd setting, as 2 cuts off far too much FOV for my liking. Another big issue, by the way, adjusting your Ipd really shouldn't mean losing huge chunks of your FOV. But after using this thing for now 3 months or so, this has actually begun to genuinely hurt my eyes and has started to affect my actual vision. Even playing for just like 30 minutes maximum a day, I found my eyesight to be struggling more and more while using this headset, and even feeling as if my vision was deteriorating while using this thing. I'm not exaggerating. When I watch movies or anything that requires me to focus my eyes, at least in VR, for more than 10 minutes, I have to take a good 30-minute or so break to let my vision get back to normal. This is actually a legitimate problem that anyone with a Quest 2 should genuinely be concerned about, as having an incorrect Ipd, unless you happen to by some act of Lord Zuckerberg happen to have the exact Ipd measurement that these 3 settings provide, having an incorrect IPD and using it for long enough can eventually cause any of the following: blurry vision, headaches, double vision images, nausea, fatigue, eye strain, extreme discomfort to people with hyperscription and stigmatism and prism effect. It really frustrates me that Facebook and Oculus just cheaped out on such a crucial feature that directly affects users' eye health. However, this hasn't really affected my exercise games like Thrill of the Fight, as you aren't exactly reading any difficult text or focusing in on any one point, especially as I only play that for 20 minutes or so a day. But for people who don't have a secondary headset to switch to for certain games, or people who spend a while in the Quest 2 every day, unless your IPD perfectly matches the specific IPD adjustment points on the Quest 2, I can imagine this is good for your long-term vision, especially with the majority of Quest 2 users that I've encountered being for the most part kids. I can't see how this is any good for developing vision. So right now, whenever I play a game that I know I'll be playing for longer than half an hour or requires me to properly focus in on something like a movie, I always switch over to my Index. Though my Quest 2 is still my go-to for any quick VR gaming sessions or exercise. And like I briefly mentioned, the FOV found on the Quest 2 is really a problem, especially if you're using any of the tighter IPD settings. I initially wasn't too bothered by the narrow 100 or so degree FOV on the Quest 2, but after now 100 days, it really bugs me. Like, it feels like I'm definitely looking through some super tight scuba goggles. This is something that really needs to take priority with the Quest 3 or 4 that Zuck briefly mentioned in one of his recent interviews, which luckily looks like it is. Now onto the display itself. The display itself is still great. Oculus Home, Echo Arena, they still look stunningly sharp, but that's kind of it. I'm exaggerating a bit there. There's still a bunch of primarily Oculus made games that take full advantage of the Quest 2's display as well, but this is unfortunately where the first issues begin to pop up, at least if you're using the headset natively. Unfortunately, due to clearly some developers not having perhaps the tools, team, or knowledge for how to properly optimize for the Quest 2, a lot of non-first party Oculus games use aggressive FOV-aided rendering techniques to only keep key points of the game in high resolution. It's clear that Oculus themselves have really mastered how to keep games running well while looking nice and sharp and taking advantage of the full resolution of the Quest 2's display, like First Steps or the previously mentioned Echo VR, while third-party developers seem to still struggle to properly optimize for the Quest 2. This leaves many third-party titles looking blurry and smudgy to the point of actually causing significant eye strain. An example of this is The Climb 2, where virtually everything other than the center of the lenses is blurry and low res. That's not to say all third-party games are like this. The previously mentioned Synth Riders looks fantastic, as does many others like Descent Alps and Gun Raiders, but it's clear not all third-party developers are capable of this. So this isn't necessarily like a purely hardware issue, but more so the developers just not having the proper communication with first-party Oculus developers to properly optimize their game for the Quest 2 natively. The more games I've tested for this channel, the more I've noticed this as a serious issue. This is something I expect to see corrected with the Quest 3 and 4 Zuckerberg recently talked about, as hopefully the power from these new devices can just sort of brute force some of the poor optimization found on some of the third-party Quest games. So visual gets a 7 out of 10, as it still kind of holds up, but the lack of IPD adjustment, the narrow FOV, and poor third-party game optimization has really begun to hold the Quest 2 back for me. Now next up is audio. The Quest 2's off-ear headphones have been shit on continuously by many VR channels, and for good reason. In comparison to something like the off-ear headphone solution found on the Index, the Quest 2's off-ear headphones are totally dog shit. That said, over these 100 days, they really haven't bothered me that much. Sure, I miss the incredible audio experience I get from my Index, and I still switch to my Index for games that take advantage of its speakers like Half-Life Alyx or Boneworks, but honestly, even for VR movie nights, I haven't been too bothered by the off-ear audio solution. And putting headphones over this thing isn't exactly difficult or all that annoying. So that's kind of it for audio. I mean, it's a 5 out of 10 still for being pretty shit, but not really causing too much of a problem for my use case. And it's definitely something you want to take into account if you're planning on getting a Quest 2. Next up is comfort. Now, this is a big one. The Quest 2's default head strap, as everyone knows, sucks big balls. Like, it's horrendous for any longer than just a few minutes. Over the course of these 100 days, I've been through 4 different head straps, struggling to find the perfect alternative. The popular bulky plastic adjustment strap that can be found everywhere on Amazon caused me, at least, a lot of neck strain in Thrill of the Fight as I tried to dodge swings and shift my body around. I can only assume that the popularity of this option comes from users that perhaps aren't all that active in VR, as the added weight felt like it was giving me whiplash. The Halo head strap replacement also gave me the same issue with its bulky weight. The Elite strap still seems to be breaking for users, so I've avoided that for now. And this replacement strap from BM Tick that has featured in many of my past videos is pretty great, but after an hour or so of VR movie watching, begins to dig into the back of my head. And finally is the current strap that I use by AM VR. It seems to fix virtually every every issue I've had with past straps, but I sometimes struggle to keep it tight against my head. So as you can see, at least if you use the Quest 2 for exercise like I do, it's pretty difficult to find a perfect head strap solution right now. I really hope with the Quest 3 or 4 we get a big improvement to this default strap design to avoid this head strap limbo in the future. The face pad is also an issue. By default, it may seem comfortable, but after a while, it absorbs an insane amount of sweat, smells awful, and gets really gross, as well as causing skin irritation for many users, though this can all be fixed with a $15 or so silicone face pad from Amazon. That said, I hope to see this face pad design change in the future to something less sweat absorbent and gross. Comfort gets a 5 out of 10 for not being quite perfect in any way. And finally, this video is hardware health. Easily the biggest one, as in just 100 days, this thing has really degraded on me. The battery life has shortened to the point of where I'm charging this thing now more than I'm playing with it. Unfortunately, this happens over time with lithium-ion battery packs, especially under heat, as the Quest 2 can get kind of hot while playing more intensive games. Lithium-ion packs are known to degrade. The tracking has also gotten way worse. Like, this is one I can't find a specific reason for. The tracking has just gone terrible over the last 100 days. The controller's full charge and the headset full charge, and any fast movement in many games has progressively become harder and harder for the Quest 2 to track. I've cleaned my cameras, I've reset the headset, I've played a range of different games, and still I'm experiencing this rapid tracking degradation. It also seems to be primarily on the left controller. I've not dropped the controller or damaged the cameras on the left side of the headset, but something has to be wrong here. Perhaps all the violent swinging from playing Thrill of the Fight has done something to the IMUs and the controllers, but I have no idea here. And all these tracking issues began before I was shooting a segment for one of my previous videos and had the Quest 2 fly off of my head, which caused the next big issue in this video, and that's the previously mentioned crack/line of dead pixels in my display. After this drop onto what is very thick carpet, I now have what kind of resembles a long hair in the bottom right of the display that's clearly a line of dead pixels or perhaps a crack in the screen. It's really difficult to get video that properly represents how big this crack or line of dead pixels is, as I can't get the camera or my phone close enough to the lens to show how big this crack is. But it's definitely noticeable and incredibly annoying during games that has any background that isn't dark. Oculus have been kind enough to offer a replacement, so big props to Oculus support, but being dropped from, head height onto a fluffy carpet and having this happen is a pretty big concern for me. I've dropped headsets in the past from this height, like my original Rift. I've never seen damage to this degree before, so I'd be really careful with at least the headset itself. The controllers seem to be made out of something from literally like a different planet. They are virtually indestructible, but the headset, at least in my case, seems to be a different story. So overall, the hardware health gets a 6 out of 10, as particularly the harder to explain issues like the tracking degradation really do concern me for the longevity of this headset. So overall, this thing is great. Although I do have concerns for its longevity, especially for the long-term effect of using the incorrect IPD, like that's a serious concern that I hope Oculus addresses. Being able to compete with my Index at just a $300 price tag is still an insane achievement. Anyway, if you want to win yourself that Synthwriter's key, just drop a comment down below on what happened to your Quest 2 in your first few months of owning it, as well as having, of course, liked and subscribed, as I'll be picking people from my subscribers list. And the winner from the last video's giveaway is Dylan Johnson. Make sure to check the reply to that comment or your channel discussion page so I can get in contact with you and send you this key. Anyway, if you got to this point in the video, you are the true MVP. I know I say it every video, but I really do appreciate those of you that watched to this point, as you keep the watch time high and you keep these videos recommended. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Bye-bye. I just want to thank those of you that have shown up to my Twitch streams recently. I really appreciate that we're now averaging higher viewers and we can actually have a community to talk about VR stuff. It's really cool to be able to give advice and just talk about what's going on in the VR industry live. So thank you everyone that's shown up to my Twitch recently. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see some more of you guys there in the future. Okay, I need to get onto editing this goddamn video because I'm running out of time. I gotta stop this recording and I gotta go edit.